Geography is an extremely broad and complex science. Within it, there are many concepts, each with its own particularities and importance. However, among these concepts, there are some that are foundational, meaning they form the basis of geographical knowledge. This is for anyone who thinks geography is only about memorizing state and country names. So whether you're an elementary, middle, or high school student, a teacher, or even a geography major, come with me, because I guarantee this video is really cool. Hey Hey there, everyone. How are you all doing? My name is Paolo. I'm a geography teacher, and welcome to Geo Illustrata. So, without further ado, let's get to know the 5 main concepts of geography. The first concept I'd like to highlight is the concept of geographic space. But before I start talking about that, just a quick note here. My goal with this video is not to break down each of the concepts I'm going to present, because they are extremely broad and complex. Besides that, each of them can vary a lot depending on the schools of thought we are analyzing. So what I'm going to do is just give a broad overview and some general observations about each of them. That said, let's get started. Geographic space. Well, among the geographic concepts, this one is perhaps the broadest of all. It's so broad that it often becomes vague because it lacks more precise explanations. It's so broad that if you look up its meaning in the dictionary, you'll find more than 10 different definitions. However, within geography, it is generally associated with a specific portion of the Earth's surface that has been identified. In addition, geographic space is constantly changing, mainly through human actions. Milton Santos says that these changes happen in different ways depending on the time in which they occurred. For example, the changes that took place in the natural milieu are not the same as those in the current period, the technical, scientific, informational milieu. If you're unsure what that is, watch the video linked in the card in the description. You'll enjoy it, I promise. The second concept is region. Okay, and another extremely broad concept that's very common in our daily lives. I'm sure you've heard it a lot in your day-to-day life, but do you really know what it means? Let's try to understand a little bit. Well, the concept of region has to do with the idea of fragmentation, of segmenting geographic space based on characteristics that this space has in common. The internal elements of a region may not be identical, but they are very similar, especially when compared to the elements of other regions. And the process that gives rise to the segmentation, that creates the regions themselves, is the process of regionalization. Well, it's very important to say that regions are defined based on specific criteria and objectives. They can be defined by taking into consideration the natural, political, economic, and social characteristics of the geographic space. Well, I believe we've already been through the worst. These are the 2 most difficult concepts to understand. At least for me, it was like that. I took a long time to understand both of them. So let's move on to the last 3. Place. Well, this concept is also extremely important in geography, and I bet you use it a lot in your daily life too. Oh, I'm going to a certain place. Oh, that place is really good, and so on and so on. However, in geography, a place is understood as part of the space that is effectively used for living, where daily activities take place. The key word to understand the concept is emotional attachment, because this concept is mainly related to the emotional bonds individuals develop with their environment. So the concept of place has to do with the idea of belonging. In other words, how much you feel you belong to a certain environment. For example, the street where you live, your neighborhood, and especially your house. These are places where you have a strong sense of belonging. Tell me, isn't it nice to get home, to your neighborhood, to your street, and have that feeling of familiarity? Then you might say, no, it's not good. I hate my neighborhood. I hate my street. But still, I bet you'll like it when you get home, right? So that's pretty much where the idea of place comes from. All right, now there are just 2 concepts left. So let's go find out what they are. But before that, guys, if you're enjoying this, I ask you to leave a like and a comment, okay? That really helps a lot with sharing the video. This video took a lot of work, really a lot. So I hope you'll return the favor and do those little things. Now let's get to the end of the video. Well, the next concept is territory. According to Marcelo José Lopes de Souza, territory is the space defined and delimited through power relations. So, the key term for us to understand the concept of territory is power relations. These relations can be exercised by individuals, groups of individuals, or even by the state. And this delimitation is established by borders, which serve mainly to establish the limits of how far these power relations go. These borders can be physical, natural, or even symbolic. Well, this concept is extremely important within geography and is extremely broad and complex. That's why I've even made a video talking exclusively about the concept of territory. I left the link here in the video description and also in the card up here. Take a look there later as well. Now let's talk about the fifth most important concept in geography, which is the concept of landscape. Well, the landscape is everything that human senses can perceive and grasp in a given geographic space. It's that simple. If you're at home right now in your room, look out the window. That's a landscape. A landscape is made up of two main elements, which are natural elements and human-made elements. The natural ones, obviously, are the elements of nature, like the trees, the sky, the wind, which can't be seen but can be heard, and everything else. On the other hand, human-made elements are those elements that, in some way, have been affected by human action. In other words, the non-natural elements, like cars, concrete, houses, buildings, and so on. Well, so these are considered the five most important concepts in geography. Keep in mind that there are other extremely important concepts, like the concept of geographic networks, scale, and many others. However, I can't talk about all of them here. Otherwise, the video would be extremely long. If you enjoyed it, stay tuned to the channel because I plan to release a separate video on each of these concepts, and that's when I will go much deeper into each of them. So that's it. Thank you so much for making it this far. I really hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, comment below. References are in the video description. Thanks. See you next time. Bye-bye.